been a really big discussion around AFL and has it become too big, and we're looking at inside coaches' boxes and we're seeing all these assistants, and a lot of people have been saying, well, maybe it's time to trim the fat, but it does seem to be quite a callous approach. I'm just wondering, on a human level, how do you feel about those discussions, and how are the coaches that have been stood down, how are they going?
I'll answer them in reverse. I think they're quite pragmatic. They're very worried about what the near and the long term looks like. There's all the speculation that there's going to be savage cuts to the soft cap, which inevitably is going to put pressure on headcount, and they're smart enough to realise that they, as long as together with lots of others within the typical footy department, are going to be under the pump. The talk about that, I think, has been from time to time a bit unseemly because, we all work and live in the industry, and it's a fiercely competitive sport and a high-performance environment. And Derm, you're on a board for a while. What happens is the footy manager and one or two of his assistants will put together a plan for the season that will give rise to a budget. That's normally interrogated pretty seriously by the finance guy and the CEO, and then there's often a subcommittee of the board which looks after this sort of thing, and eventually the board ratifies the budget. And these are worlds of finite resources, so it beggars belief that a sloppy board, that rigorous process would enable surplus headcount in coaching and other areas of a footy department. And speaking from the prism as a parent, I can't imagine that my lads and any of them would be better treated than they are now with a round complement of lots of staff. So I think it's I don't accept the fact that this is an opportunity for an overdue correction, and I certainly don't accept the fact that in this race to win a premiership, there's been anything other than a very, very clever, well thought through allocation of financial and human resources. And so coaches are, as I've always described, coaches are at the tip of the spear and very, very important to what goes on, and we'll be the worst without a few of them.
Hey, Mark, Derm here. Hey, you touched on it just then, that the football department, i.e. the coach and the head of the football department, will come to the board, they'll ratify a plan or ask the board to ratify the plan. We're hearing murmurs that the vulnerability might even strike at the football department manager and may even convert to something like the Grant Thomas plan from 10, 15 years ago, that the coach may even become the person in charge of the football department per se.
I wouldn't want to speak ill of any of my coaches, but they have just got no. Let's put aside their capacity to run the footy department. I can't imagine that anybody would go anywhere near doing what Grant Thomas did and what they say might happen in the Northern Hemisphere. I see those things in this day and age as being very different skill sets. Normally what happens is, I don't know, again, you guys have got plenty of experience in this, you more than me, Derm, but when there's a review of a footy department, you'll often find that if the coach makes it, and most of the time he does, that inevitably they pare down the responsibilities for the coach and say, listen, you just worry about the players and match day, and the rest of the enormous responsibilities that have blossomed since Tomo's time underneath the umbrella, if you like, of the footy manager, because there's just so much to do. It's monumental. If you can draw a wagon wheel with 4, 6, 8, 16 little wedges and rapidly fill them with everything that goes on in a footy department. So, and as I said earlier, none of that money squandered. It does require a very, very sharp administrator to oversee them. I've got no doubt that necessity will be the mother of invention, and that the next couple of years when we get out of this mess will give rise to job descriptions and all sorts of concepts that we haven't heard of. I can't see the senior coach and the footy manager's roles blurring too much. To be honest, I think those two will stand tall, and then others underneath them will be changed.